I remember this fast food slogan that stood out to me growing up. I believe it was the restaurant chain Burger King. I've had many a good chicken sandwich and Whopper from the place. But the slogan went something like this: Your way, right away. Burger King now. Your way, right away. And while this may be a good slogan for fast food industry, it's not very descriptive of the Christian understanding of freedom. The Christian understanding of freedom is not precisely your way, right away, but something quite different, something that is oriented around the other rather than the self, having everything to do with love and responsibility. So in this short video segment, we want to examine further Christian morality in terms of the goal toward which we would strive in our moral life. For St. Augustine, he identifies this as happiness, or what Christian theology calls beatitude, the happy life. Not some temporary, fleeting, surface, ephemeral happiness, but a joy based on the truth. This is the happy life, says St. Augustine in his Confessions. After reflecting back on his checkered life experience, the happy life is joy based on the truth. So we can think of it this way, that we are free to the degree that we seek what is true in all things. As great 20th century theologian, become Pope Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger, wrote, freedom without truth is no freedom. Or as a lesser-known theologian has said, Wallenfang, if freedom is not oriented around the truth, it is oriented inevitably around lies. So either we commit ourselves to the truth and seeking the truth in every way, otherwise our lives will be oriented around what is not true. If we're not seeking the truth, the only alternative is what is not true or the lie. We read from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the more one does what is good, the freer one becomes. It is good to seek the truth, and as Jesus promises in the Gospel, the truth will set us free. The more we do what is good, the freer we become. So the first principle of morality, the first principle of practical reason is do good and avoid evil. It's that straightforward. Do good and avoid evil, but to do the good, we must seek, study, investigate what is true. Freedom is based on truth and doing the good. So I want to present here in brief, I think a tremendous juxtaposition made by a Dominican moral theologian named Survey Pinker. To the question, what is freedom? Pinker identifies two different understandings of freedom. And the one on the left is freedom of indifference. I would suggest is the popular understanding of freedom. Most people understand freedom this way: simply the ability to choose between contraries, this or that I'm in a position to choose. As if freedom can be identified with the free will itself. It proceeds from the will alone. Each free act is independent of all others. And for this understanding of freedom, the idea of virtue is simply a habit that submits to law. Whatever the law is, at least it's a submission to law. That's as far as virtue goes for this understanding of freedom. And oftentimes, law seems to be something that gets in the way of freedom, but nevertheless is necessary, and one must be obligated to follow the law to be virtuous, as if just following the law itself is virtue itself. But I think the key of this freedom of indifference is that word indifferent. One is indifferent to what is chosen, but what is important is to be able to choose itself. And the choice itself is the standard of freedom, not so much choosing the good and avoiding evil, but simply choosing whether it's good or evil. And this is a very prevalent understanding of freedom, I think in American culture for sure. but one that is not um, united with the Christian concept. And here's where Pinker gives us a helpful alternative based especially on the work of the scholastic theologian of the 13th century, St. Thomas Aquinas. So freedom for excellence in contrast to this freedom of indifference. See, already the preposition for says something. That's that morality that strives. It's not indifferent to what is being chosen, but it wants to choose the good and do the good and seek the truth. Drawn to goodness and truth through this experience, a quite affective one, oftentimes of beauty. So freedom for excellence is this ability to act with excellence and perfection, the perfection of the moral life, as we read before, rooted in truth and goodness. This kind of morality proceeds from reason, will, and a natural longing for truth, goodness, and happiness. Moreover, it's informed by divine revelation and inspired by grace. So the actions within a freedom for excellence are united through an ordered whole of life. Each action is not independent from the rest, but we're talking about real habits of virtue over the course of a lifetime that are developed. And in this concept, virtue itself is an aspect of freedom. It's not some residue of submitting to whatever law, but virtue is that desire itself that wills the good of the other, that wills the common good. Altogether, this freedom for excellence promotes a morality of happiness, that joy we have, that delight we have in seeking the truth and true virtue. This is a helpful way to show this contrast between this popular idea of freedom that's based on a very egocentric concept of just choosing whatever, as if that's the essence of freedom. But we know from experience that when we do not choose the good, we don't become more free. The less we choose the good, the more enslaved we become to the passion, to the vice, to the sinful habits. We become addicted, and really self-destruction sets in. This is quite self-evident. Whereas with the freedom for excellence, the more we choose the good, indeed, the freer we become.